Welcome to this week's Weber County Commission meeting. We're glad that you've chosen to join us here today. Seated to my immediate right is Commissioner Sharon Bolos. Seated to my left is Commissioner Gage Farrar, and I'm Commissioner Harvey. We have a great meeting prepared for you today, and it's going to start out phenomenal. We have the American Legion Post Number 9 Honor Guard here. Now, here a couple of years ago, they celebrated their 100th year plus of existence in our, and they're right there on the, going out on 24th Street, going out there. We're sure glad you're here. Terry, I know that Sharon Bolos sits on that Veterans Board, local Veterans Board. Terry Scow's here, but we have Bob Jones with us today. Bob, we're going to turn the time over to you to post the colors, and then after we've posted the colors, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Following the American Legion Post Number 9 Honor Guard, we'll have an invocation by Miss Shelley Hallisey, and then our thought of the day will be given by Commissioner Sharon Bolos. We'll go to that point. Bob, it's yours.
Honor Guard, at 10. Would the audience please rise and place your hands over your heart? Forward, march. Ready? Post. And salute. Would the audience please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready? Two. Color Guard, retreat. Thank you.
Our dear, kind, gracious Father in heaven, we're so thankful to meet today in this commission meeting. We're so thankful for the water we're getting with our weather. We'd like to especially thank you, Father, for the veterans, their sacrifices, their continued service. Please bless the commission that they listen to what is being presented and make choices that are best for our community. We say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Well, I feel really fortunate that it's my turn to be on the thought of the day for Veterans Day. And one of my favorite things to think about is the sacrifices that these men and women make for their families, or that their families make when they're in service. And I have my father-in-law who was serving in Vietnam and didn't meet his oldest daughter until she was about 6 months old. He actually thought it was a son because the mail was so slow, and he just expected it would be a son. started calling her Gus, but she turned out to be a Patty. Anyway, and my two grandpas were both serving in the war when their oldest were born. And my mom didn't meet her dad till she was about 9 months old, and my dad didn't meet his dad till he was 2.5. And one of my favorite pictures of my grandpa Arrington is when he was at the war, and he had fallen asleep on a couch, and he was holding a picture of his wife and my dad as a little boy. And I just think, these men and women sacrifice so much, and their families give so much, and just want to express my gratitude for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, you Legionnaires that have come and done this today. Really appreciate your service today and what you've done in the past. Thank you so much. Commissioners, we're going to move on to the public comment portion of our agenda today. For those items that are posted on our agenda, if you have comments pertaining to those, you're welcome to come and offer those public comments now. If you limit those comments to 3 minutes, it would be appreciated. Any online? Hearing none, we're going to move to our consent items. The first one is a request for approval of warrants 103,574 through and including 103,630, 487,614 through and including 487,736 and 398 in the amount of $1,926,464.15. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $190,687.87. And item 3 is that summary of warrants and purchase orders. We'll go to our very own best clerk auditor in the land, Ricky Hatch. Go ahead, Mr. Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For purchase orders, we issued 13 this week for a total amount of $191,000. 58% of that amount, or $111,000, is for the library to go towards building improvements and office equipment. 16%, or $30,000, is for the roads department to purchase truck parts. 15%, or $29,000, is for our IT department for software, and 5%, or $10,000, is for the Golden Spike Event Center for concrete repair supplies. As far as checks, we issued 181 warrants this week for $1.9 million. 57% of that amount, or $1.1 million, was for the conference center remodel. 8%, or $150,000, was a contribution to the WEBER Housing Authority, and that was a pass-through from Cache Valley Bank. 7%, or $143,000, is for the library that went towards building improvements, software, utilities, and books and materials. The top 5 vendors we paid this week: Hogan and Associates Construction for $1.1 million, WEBER Housing Authority $150,000, Rocky Mountain Mechanical Incorporated $79,000, Rocky Mountain Power $64,000, and Little Mountain Service Area $38,000.
Great. Any questions, commissioners?
None for me.
None.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is a request for approval of new business licenses. Item 5 is a request for Weber County Community Development Department for approval to declare parcel 13-119 and 19 as surplus property. Item 6 is a request from the Weber County Community Development Department for approval to declare parcel 19 and 24 and 41 as surplus property. Item 7, request from Weber County Morgan Health Department for approval of surplus computer equipment. Item 8 is a request for approval of an amendment to the contract by between Weber County and the Ogden Nordic, allowing the Ogden Nordic to build a maintenance storage structure at North Fork Park. Item 9 is a request for approval of the 2024 Transportation Priorities recommendations. This was given at WACOG through the Weber Area Council of Governments with all the mayors. It came as a unanimous. Item 10 is a request for approval of contracts by between Weber County and the following companies for right-of-way acquisition services: WCEC, doing business as Wall Consulting Group, Avenue Consultants, and Meridian Engineering, Inc. Item 11 is a request for approval of a change order number 1 of a contract by between Weber County and Randy Merritt Construction for the Eden Acres storm drain. Item 13 is a request for, Item 12 is a request for approval of an electric file release and waiver from Sunrise Engineering. Item 13, request for Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval to abate taxes on the following parcel numbers for the deliverance of secondary home versus primary residential home: 22-244-0005, Lon D. Castleton and Constance L. Castleton, Trust et al., about $5,508.80. Next one is 22-414 and 17, Nancy M. Schaefer and Aaron K. Schaefer, for about $22.55 the next one is 21-121 and 3 for Lyle Moklebust, Living Trust for $72.79 and 53, and the next one is item 15, 543 and 19 for Joel T. Hansen for $14.48 and 90 cents. And that will conclude the consent items. Questions or comments on those, commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent items F1 through 13.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. It's pretty amazing how we spend money so quickly, isn't it, Sylvia? But I want you to know that there are several checklists that go into this. Many, many checklists and looking over before it ever gets to even this point, just so you know. We're going to move to the action items, which is G. The first one is a request for approval of contract by between Weber County and Colton McKay for indigent defense for the 2nd District Court. Seeing not Mr. Ritalik here, Mr. Frohr or Commissioner Frohr, do you want to take that?
Sure, happy to. So this is just another contract that we have with one of our contractors to provide defense for the indigent defense under the IDC, state of Utah. So I would move approval of that contract.
We have a motion for approval
Second.
and a second. I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Our next item, G2, is a discussion and/or action with a request to abate taxes for the difference in what was paid to owing, put back on the Greenbelt, and abate rollback. Let me restart that. Item 2 is a discussion and/or action on a request to abate taxes for difference in what was paid to owing, put back on Greenbelt, and abate rollback taxes for the years 2020 through 2024. The owner is Dixie Bunat. Welcome, Dixie. Glad you're here. These parcel numbers are listed on the agenda. All of them are 10 and 20, 01, 02, 03, 04, 10, 11, 19, 27, 30, 31, and 32. Our presenter today is Miss Dee Dee Kimber. Miss Kimber? And you've got Angela with you today. Angela, which one's the sing and which one's the dance? Dee Dee, no, that's okay. Dee Dee, come on up and make that presentation if you would, please.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. Just to talk a little bit about this, we received an email from Dixie requesting to help her out due to some family difficulties she had back in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we presented her request to the Tax Review Committee, and on all parcels, there was a rollback tax either charged in 2020 or 2021 to roll it out of Greenbelt. And so she's requesting that to be waived due to it being in production still. She did pay the taxes. The tax amount she paid was in her best interest of what she thought it would have been if it would have stayed in Greenbelt. We did, as the county, we did do an audit. She was just randomly selected to do an audit in 2019. That was the first part of the parcels. The second one was due to some ownership changes that happened on the parcels. And so we sent out notices, certified, signed for the certified letters, just didn't respond to them. She talked to Angela a couple times, talked to the attorney once, but the Tax Review Committee has recommended that she hasn't applied to, just last week she applied to put them back into Greenbelt, so we do have the application now effective for 2025. But the Tax Review Committee, due to 59-2-1347, in the best human interest, is to abate the taxes and the rollback from 2020 and 2021. So that total is what we're requesting to abate per the Tax Review Committee's recommendation. And still leaves a balance owing of $64,830.93. So we're abating $79,908.46. And that's the rollback and the tax difference from 2020 and 2021.
So we're abating 79 and some change, and then we've got...
79,908.46.
And then they're still owing 64.
64,830.93.
Okay, great. I've, in preparation for this, anything else on your, Ms. Kimber?
Not unless you guys have some questions.
We may have some questions if you'll just kind of stay around. I do want to compliment publicly you, Dee Dee, and Angela, while you're both here. You guys are the best in the business. We sure appreciate and respect you very much. And you guys are, you use a very practical, yet you follow the law. You do a wonderful job, and we really respect and appreciate you very much. Thank you for what you do. Commissioners Bolos, Commissioners Frohr, do you have any questions for Ms. Kimber or for Angela at this time?
Just a quick question, if I might, Mr. Chair. So, Dee Dee, or maybe this is Angela, why did this fall out at Greenbelt for those 2 years and then?
The reason is there was an audit that was done, and so the paperwork was sent. Anytime there's an audit, which Ange may want to add to it, but that they request a reapplication.
Ange, would you mind coming up and explain?
It might be better.
Yeah, I just need a little more information why this actually fell out at Greenbelt and then now we're going back.
And Commissioners, in advance of Angela's testimony here, I've also invited Ms. Bunot to come and make a statement as well, the petitioner. So go ahead, Angela.
So we audited the parcel in 2019, and at that point, once we audit you, we like a 2-year history, which is either farm receipts or a Schedule F showing your profit and loss statement for farming. Once they don't respond to those 2 notices, we send out the rollback, and at that point, we send out 2 rollback notices, and one is certified, which she signed. So at that point, once we don't hear from somebody, we remove it from Greenbelt. Basically, that tells us that, hey, they must not be using it agriculturally anymore if they're not going to respond. The second year, for 2020, there was an ownership change, and so at that point, we sent out 2 notices for an application, and then again, 2 notices for the rollback because she did not respond to the application. By law, she has 120 days to respond, and so we were way beyond that, and so we removed the remaining parcels from Greenbelt.
That's good information, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to just recognize Angela and Dee Dee for the work they do with Greenbelt. Greenbelt's not under that act, is not sometimes an easy statute to understand or sometimes implement, and sometimes it's not easy to explain that to members of the public. So I appreciate your work and being very professional and making sure that you went through the correct procedures, and then it looks like this went to tax review, so they felt that it was proper to abate those 2 years. So, no other questions, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Commissioner Bowles, do you have any questions before I
No.
invite Ms. Bunot up?
Not before that.
Dixie Bunot, would you mind coming, and would you had a couple of comments you wanted to address the commission, and I promised her that we would hear her at this portion instead of during public comment. So go ahead, Dixie. You'll be fine.
I just wanted to address that in 2019 and 20, I did receive notices. I was the caretaker of my mother-in-law, which I don't regret at all, but my time wasn't mine. And by the time I got my head on straight, all of a sudden I owed $100,000 in taxes. And I would just hope that because the land was in Greenbelt, has been producing in Greenbelt, we grow grass, corn, hay, three-way, had cattle on the ground. It never was taken out of Greenbelt production. I did have a same issue with Davis County, and they also sent me certified letters to address this. Davis County did not take it out. They did not hit rollback taxes. They just continued it to be in Greenbelt, and that was all resolved this year also. When I called in 21, 22, I was told that because I missed the date, there was nothing that could be done. By this time, it was too big of a mountain. I didn't know what to do, and I did the worst thing that I could have done, which was nothing. I got in contact with John Uleberry, and he explained to me that I could go before the tax review committee and then here. And so I'm trying to make it straight. I just hope that the Greenbelt purpose can override the non-primary accounting. Do you have any questions?
I know this can be hard and intimidating, but you presented yourself really well, Dixie. Thank you so much for that, and we appreciate you coming before us today and helping tell the rest of the story. Thank you.
I didn't know if you needed it. I did print a picture that shows the crops in the field if you wanted to see that it's legit.
Dixie, that was a picture probably taken off of Google, wasn't it?
It was, but it shows the crops are green.
Sure. What, do you know when the Google's unique?
It was this year. It was
Oh,
current.
Okay. It's a current picture. Okay.
Yes. I didn't backdate it on the graph to do back the prior years. I just printed the one.
I love the fact, too, that you've come up here and you've taken responsibility for your actions. Thank you so much.
They did their jobs. Gosh, you can't dispute truth.
Thank
There's
you.
just extenuating circumstances, I hope.
Yeah, and it's where you don't do it all day, every day. It can be difficult, huh?
Well, I'm in the field every day, but
In the
That's
field every
different.
day, yeah. I got it. Okay, commissioners, thank you very much.
thank you.
Angela Didi, do you have any more you'd like to add? Put you guys in a difficult spot. Commissioner Bolos, comments or questions?
How much is it? How much?
I do have a question for Dee Dee and or Angela. So the abatement amount, I believe you said was for the years 20 and 21?
What were the amounts? So if we do the difference in what they paid in taxes and the rollbacks, it's abating $79,908.46.
With the balance 64 and
$64,830.93.
Is that for 22 and 23?
That's including the 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Because 22, 23, and 24 are being assessed not at the Greenbelt rate. They're just at market and not getting the Greenbelt rate because of the application not being filed until the 20 for next year. So if, unfortunately, none of them, like the value on 10, 20, and 1, you guys have the sheet now. For 2024, the market value is 325, 200. If it was under Greenbelt, the taxable value would be substantially lower. But it's not because of the applications weren't filed. Yes, the production was being done on the land, but just the application was not done. So.
I got a question. So I respect and appreciate the work that you do in your office. Why is it because we're ahead of the curve as it relates to this with the state? Because Ms. Bunot brought up the fact that the same thing happened, the money's indifferent right now. I'm just talking about the principle. But the same thing happened in Davis County. Are they just not as with it as we are, or they're not as good at their job as you guys are? What is it?
Without talking to Davis County, I honestly don't know, because we did an audit, and then there was a name change, and so when these are done, there's certain guidelines that we have to follow, and that's what we did. Davis County, I don't know if there was an audit. I don't know if there was a name change. So I can't answer to that. I apologize.
And there was a name change on this one, correct?
There was.
Dixie, you had a comment?
Could I answer here? Do I-
You need to come to the mic because it's being recorded. Sorry.
Davis County said that because they knew that it was in production, that overrode the rest of it. Yes, there was a name change. I removed my husband's name because he's deceased.
Okay.
And there's no ownership change besides that, just removing my husband's name off. And they said because they knew it was in production that overrode the other items.
Okay, thank you. That helps. Well, you've given us a lot to think about here. Commissioners, for me, there's a letter of the law. There's a spirit of the law.
That's why we have
There's a sin of
59, 2,
commission and a
47.
sin of omission. You know, and that makes it really tough. I wouldn't mind sitting on this for a week, but I'm just one. Commissioner Bolos, I'll go to you first, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Floor, if you have any other comments. Commissioner Bolos?
I don't have any other comments. I wouldn't mind giving it some more thought and maybe have conversation with you guys about the balance. I wouldn't mind.
Commissioner Floor?
Well, so I just want to verify, was this ever taken out of production or not?
No,
Okay, so the ground was always in production,
yes, sir,
which qualifies for Greenbelt.
my understanding.
So the issue came up when you did not respond.
Because I didn't fill out the application.
You didn't do the application of the name change because your husband,
Name
passed
change
away.
was because my husband deceased.
that correct? Okay. And the tax review committees looked at this, analyzed it, and basically suggested that be abated.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with what you said, is that there's the letter of the law, but there's also, I think we have the ability to look a little deeper into the actual facts. In my opinion, this wasn't a case where somebody intentionally tried to go outside the statute, go outside the green belt. So I'm happy to wait a week. I'm comfortable with, I like to recognize the committees that do the work. They put in time in this. I haven't put the time in, but just, if it was in production, it was a error that took place because of the owners has come before us and said today that she didn't reply to us, which I respect that honesty. So I'm happy to move forward on this with that recommendation. Again, I respect the work of the committee, and but if you need additional time, I'm happy to do that too.
Thank you. And my thing is Ms. Bunot, just to be clear, the reason that there's a difficulty here is because in the world that we live in the law, we have to think about precedents being set. So unfortunately, the law states if we do it for one, we have to consider doing it for all, and there is malicious intent surrounding this type of action that happens more frequently than we have people who come up, accept responsibility, are put under hardship under no cause of their own, but because of other things that happen. So it creates, unfortunately, those who are earnest, those who are genuine, those who have done their level best, it harms them because of those who are malicious. So, commissioners, unless either one of you are driven to make a motion, I'd like to for approval or not, I'd like to entertain a motion to table for time certain for 1 week. Which, I don't mean to put you through another week of wondering, but you've already gone through several as this has gone through here. So it just gives us a chance to just do a little more homework. So what would be your pleasure, either one of you? I'm speaking now to the commissioners. Commissioner Farrar, Commissioner Bolos.
I'll make a motion to table this item.
I'd second that with an amendment that be placed on next week's agenda, time certain.
Yes.
We have a motion to be placed, or to hold, or to place it for 1 week. I'll take that motion in second and place it for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number H, commissioner comments. You know, I have one more comment to say. I was in a situation here not long ago where a friend of mine who I've known since high school came to me and said, and he's starting to fail. And I've known some things about him in his life for his whole life, and because he's starting to fail, he came up and he says, you know, I want you to know that when I was out of high school, I got this girl pregnant. And, he didn't say that. He says, he said, we did some things we shouldn't have done. Now, this is back in 1980. This is 44 years ago. And he said, instead of having her go to her parents, I thought the man thing for me to do would be for me to go talk to her dad. So that's how he chose to handle it. And he did. He went and talked to her dad, and he went and talked to the dad, and who was an old military disciplinarian, really a head of sports guy. And instead of getting angry, the dad said, we'll work this out. Things will be okay. And this now son-in-law turned from bitterness and fear into love, admiration, and appreciation. It helped shape his life for the rest of his life. He was kind of a wild hellion. And now he's a giver, and he gives back to every area of his life. That's what he does. He spends his life giving and being kind. And I just, today, I love the sacrifice that we saw firsthand from the American Legion Post 9, posting the colors. And I was moved, obviously, by someone who comes up and takes responsibility for their actions, even when they didn't do the right thing. There's a lot of power in taking responsibility for one's actions. I sure think it's good. Sets a wonderful example for the next generation, which may not be the greatest, but they can be right up next to it. All right, that's what I've got. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for item I, India.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.